The world is darkening ever more grossly. Modern mass communication these days seems to serve more to confuse the masses than connect them. Well, this story is for those who hunger and thirst after light and truth. I am the light of the world, Jesus announced one day in Jerusalem. This declaration sparked a confrontation with the Pharisees that ended in them taking up stones to kill him in the holy temple, of all places. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. The disciples asked him why this man was blind, and Jesus responded that he was not blind by any fault of his own or his parents', but that the works of God may be made manifest in him. In other words, the man was born to be a miracle. Well, Jesus then spits on the ground and makes clay and rubs it on the man's eyes, telling him to go to the pool of Siloam and wash. Siloam is similar to the Old Testament name Shiloh, which is another name for the Messiah. Siloam's waters are holy to the Jews. Obediently, the blind man made his way to the pool, washed, and returned, seeing. This caused no small stir among the Jews. Everyone knew he was the blind beggar, and now he was whole. But how? The situation presented a terrible dilemma to the Pharisees. Jesus had healed the man on the Sabbath, so obviously he must be a sinner. But how could a sinner do such a miracle that only could have come from God? But Jesus could not be of God, for if he were of God, then the Pharisees were not. You see the dilemma? Well, the lowly beggar was summoned before the mighty Sanhedrin, the wisest men of the Jews. With great courage he defended his healer before them, but they railed on him, saying, "Thou art his disciple. We are Moses' disciples. We know that God spake unto Moses, but as for this fellow, we know not from whence he is." Now, the absurdity of that statement was too much for the beggar. He said to them, in effect, "Why, this is marvelous. You are God's holy men, and here we have a miracle that is clearly of God, and you don't know where the man comes from who did it?" With grit in his soul, he declared to them, if this man were not of God, he could do nothing. They couldn't answer that, so they simply insulted him and cast him out. Jesus later found him and further enlightened his soul. And then the Master added, "For judgment I am come into the world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind." Jesus had brought light into a blind man's eyes, and in so doing, he enlightened every Jewish soul who knew the blind man. The sun had undeniably risen again over the darkened world of the Jews. If now they could not see the sun for what he was, it was because they chose to be blind. My friends, today, the sun is ablaze again with noonday intensity. Great and marvelous things are happening before your very eyes. Our future is high adventure. Do you see it? If your world is dark, I am a witness to this truth. It doesn't have to be. Look unto the sun and live.